Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here on this Wednesday, February 21st, 2018, approaching 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Good morning to you, Delvin. Decided to jump on early today for a bit, just to go over what's going on. I had a library talk last night at the Floral Park Library on Long Island, so it kind of threw me off my schedule and wasn't able to do a live stream last night. So we'll do one now, a short one, and then we'll do a regular one tonight, probably either at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. I got to wait till I get into work and see what my schedule is there. Okay, so Glenn Thompson, Dio Nankumar, Danilo Yakubov, James NASCAR fan, Timothy Veltman, Franklin Taylor. Good morning to you all. Franklin, you should be getting ready for your rain over there. Looks like you're going to get some decent rainfall across the middle Mississippi Valley. Scott Olson, yes, I had a very good time indeed. We're going to take a look first at a pretty extensive and busy watch and warning and advisory map this morning across the middle Mississippi Valley. We have this frontal boundary that's set up to the west of the coast, and as a result, we're seeing where I am another round of record highs with the temperatures up into the 70s. But beyond the frontal boundary, where it's up to the north in upstate New York, we've got some flood watches posted for the northeastern counties in northern Vermont, also for parts of around the Great Lakes. But we have extensive flood watches up throughout much of the middle and lower Mississippi valleys and back up into northeastern Texas. And then north and west of there, from north central Texas through much of Oklahoma, Kansas, and in through Missouri, where we have these winter weather advisories, we are looking for the possibility of ice storm conditions in those areas. And in fact, when we check out what's up specifically in the purple, that's also a hard freeze warning. Out in the west, you've got winter weather advisories up for parts of Nevada and northeastern California, various hard freeze watches in parts of central and southern California, and a few other scattered winter weather advisories. It's cold in the west, but it is relatively calm. So let's go over what's happening here. We've got this big ridge in the eastern part of the United States, and that is holding on for a bit longer because we are going to see this kind of a monumental pattern upheaval that is going to occur over the next week or two. And in the meantime, let me bring up the U.S. map here so we can take a look at the weather that's going on across the country and fix the precip up. And we'll go to the beginning, which is always a good place to start. So here's that frontal boundary out to the west where you see the rain it's in a relatively narrow band running northeast-southwest, but in the east with the high off the east coast, it's very warm. North and west of this boundary, it is very cold. I happened to see some temperatures in the low and mid-teens across a bunch of Kansas today. We're seeing the ice and sleet that develops during the overnight and into Thursday. Doesn't look like it amounts to too much, but I just wonder whether the models might be underdoing this a little bit. And in the east, we're going to see a big change tomorrow as that cold high presses down, front backdoors through New England and down into the mid-Atlantic states on tonight into Thursday morning. So there are going to be some 30 and 40 degree temperature changes tomorrow. And on the northern fringe of this moisture, there will be some sleet and freezing rain and maybe even a little bit of wet snow. The next wave comes out on Friday, and that brings snow out of Colorado and on up into the central parts of the central and northern plains of the upper Midwest. It brings rain into the east with a little bit of freezing rain ahead of it. The third wave is coming out on Saturday, and there you can see there's a wrapped up 998 millibar low near Kansas City with some heavy snow across eastern Nebraska up into southwestern Minnesota. Looks like there could be a pretty decent snowstorm for parts of the upper Midwest here as a rather intense low, winds up going into western Wisconsin, northwestern Wisconsin, and north and west of that low track, I would expect that there could be winter storm warnings and maybe even some blizzard conditions. That low wraps up into Canada, and then next week, the weather in the east at least looks a bit calmer. Just want to show you what's happening with the upper air really fast. And let me bring up the full U.S. view. We're still, actually, I'm going to go to the North America view. So looking at, that whole advertised blocking pattern is going to be developing. Here's the situation now. Deep trough in the west, strong ridge in the east, record highs here in the east, the boundary zone. We're getting that heavy rains and some ice out into the Midwest, and then you've got the cold deep trough in the west. But look at the big changes that occur in the overnight run. Model runs are very consistent with this, although the devil's going to be in the details, obviously. But that big blocking high sitting right over between Scandinavia and Greenland moves westward. How far west it gets is really going to be critical to the weather in the long term once we get into that first week of March. But you can see how the logjam develops in the Atlantic. The whole profile of the jet stream changes over next week and into next weekend. So you wind up with this blocking pattern setting up. And the other thing to watch out for is we're going to have to watch to see what happens to the pressures up in the Pacific Northwest and into Northwest Canada, because that is going to be really key going forward into how these weather systems that come out of the west impact the East Coast. If pressures rise there, we're going to have storms tracking further south. That means colder, and that means potential for something to happen down the road in the long term, although, what that something would be remains to be seen. I want to just show you really fast what's going on in Europe, because this is all tied together. And get ready. For those of you, that's the other reason why I kind of went on early today, because I wanted to catch you folks over in the UK and on the continent with what's going on, because this developing blocking high is going to have a big impact on your weather as cold air moves on westward from Siberia. You can see how that upper low just basically migrates westward. Instead of things moving west to east, they move from east to west. And here's your big high near Greenland, north and west of England. So the flow is coming straight from Siberia. If I show you from the standpoint of how this looks with temperatures, you'll see it better. This is the below average temperatures, the temperature anomalies, which are below average over all of Europe. This is in 7 days, but I want to just show you how it gets there. Just watch the area up to the north and west as that sweeps westward, okay, and just absolutely envelopes all of Europe and England in the longer term. And it looks like it's going to stay that way for the better part of the next 2 weeks once this cold air gets underway. It's not until late in the forecast period that we start to see warmer conditions improve. And, while you have all this cold air around, don't bet against the possibility of some snow. So some rather wintry conditions in Europe developing as this blocking high just winds up changing the weather pattern all over the place from one continent to the other. And again, it's going to have some impact here, but we just have to work through the rest of this weekend into early next week with the pattern we have until we start to see some real changes. So, you know what, folks, I'm going to call it a day at this point, and we'll come back tonight at our usual time, figure 6 o'clock Eastern. If not, then just watch for the schedule. I might have to push it back to 7, but then we'll spend more time in getting into what the weather pattern is going to be like. In the meantime, if you're in my neck of the woods, enjoy the record highs today as temperatures head up into the 60s and 70s yet again.